Hell yeah. You made it to a bonus episode of the Stories in the Cemetery podcast. So, surprise. These episodes are launched completely random in between our bi-weekly episodes. The bonus episodes are welcoming special guests that are innovating the paranormal field either with a new invention, idea, or proven theory. Not just folks with paranormal evidence. Hell, we all have that already. If you enjoy this episode and want to learn more or connect with our guest, be sure to check the show notes for all of their info. To stay focused on the guest, these episodes will be ad-free. If you are a candidate for becoming a guest on the podcast, reach out to us at storiesinthecemetery@gmail.com with subject line podcast guest, and we'll reach out if you can pique our interest. Let's get into our interview with Nick and Josh.
All right, we are recording. All right, welcome back everyone to a special bonus episode of Stories in the Cemetery. Today we do not have Nick with us, so I am writing solo, doing an interview today with Noelle from Creepy Confidential.
What's up, creeps? This is Noelle. I am the host of Creepy Confidential. Too bad Nick cannot be here. R.I.P.
So just so everybody knows, Nick didn't die. He's
Yes.
just not able to be on not able to be here today. So, Noelle, we kind of talked a little bit prior, and there's a certain reason I wanted to try and interview you during the podcast. But let's kind of start with who you are, where you started, and what kind of got you going on paranormal.
Sure. So as I introduced myself earlier, my name's Noelle. I would say that my first love was the paranormal, but I've always been into the strange and unusual of topics. I was the kid in the library that just could not get enough of all the different books, all subjects, from history to mummies to ghosts to you name it. I was the kid who just wanted to just sit and read in the little cubbies. And I think movies are a big thing for me. Speaking of, what I do and the classes, I even use movies as little pop culture references so that people can try and understand an analogy between what I'm trying to describe. And because was something that really got me started early on, was a little kid watching not necessarily scary movies, but movies that were fun and ghost-like, like Beetlejuice and Ghostbusters. Those were the big ones that I think almost every kid watched and loved.
True.
So that's really kind of I started youngish and starting with kind of those fun comedies, and that's really what started me, like the ultimate thing that stuck in my mind was the movie Ghostbusters. And it wasn't the magnificent side of it, the Marshmallow Man and no, that wasn't it. It was Ray, who was super particular about his research. He knew all of the weird, this was the great book stacking from 1940. He was just really into knowing exactly what every little thing was. And I loved that. The ectoplasm that was dripping from the bookcases, I wanted to know about that because it was something scientific that you could collect. You could analyze it. You could really figure out what you're going to see next time. All the instrumentation, obviously in Ghostbusters, it's very fantastical, right. but it is based in real life type of situations. So I think that stuck with me very young, and even up until now, it's my favorite movie. I reference it in my paranormal class lectures that are starting, and I want people to know that it's not necessarily because you lived in a haunted house that you like the paranormal, So
very true.
That's where I got started. But I've been investigating the paranormal for 17 years, and I've been a formal researcher and kind of team member for 20 years. So, not to age myself too much, but it's important that brings experience and that brings seeing a lot of parts of the paranormal world of what people do and maybe shouldn't do, or because it's a science that we're still trying to prove and figure out. So that's ultimately, I started just my own group. That's what happened. We started our own group out in Washington State. We started hitting some of the big locations. We started in cemeteries because, of course, when you don't have the avenue to say, hey, this is what we've done, but we did some big locations, and we couldn't get enough. I wanted more information. I'm always about more information.
Very cool. Now, I always love the very first investigation story, because I always tell mine as, I remember taping flashlights to a camera and just, I need to be able to see. So
yes.
what is your first investigation experience? What did that look like?
So I would say the first formal investigation was not with a team yet, but it was, we're going to take out equipment, basic things. I think we had an audio recorder, we had a video recorder. I don't even think we had EMF. It was just a matter of, let's just try this and see what happens. We were sitting at I talk about it in case somebody happens to go to the lecture, the Miller Woodlawn Memorial Park that's in Bremerton, Washington. And I mention it specifically because we got lucky on our very first time. And it was just me and another individual. And we rolled in and kind of pulled over where we could just take a moment, ask some questions, see if we could just kind of get the sparks going, you got to get the mojo going for any investigation, I think, because to really get into it. And the engine was running, the window was down, and we were just investigating something on the lens, and we had been asking, kind of like you do, is there anybody there? Is there whatever? And at the time, we didn't know that we had caught something. So we took our evidence, we got home, and it turns out we caught an EVP, but a fairly loud one, on the video recorder. And it started with one man's voice, and it says, "What did y'all do to this place?" And then another one, as if it's right next to him, and he says, "Don't you touch her." And it's very obvious. There's no headstones in the cemetery, so there can't be anybody standing behind them. And I think it was me and my friends sitting with laptops on the ground, with the audio, and you're listening. And you're like, okay, just blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden we both sat up, and our eyes were as big as saucers because we heard it at the same time. Who gets lucky on their first shot? I don't know. But we couldn't deny that we had clearly caught voices. And I do use those recordings as an example of a conscious entity.
Very cool. Honestly, I think it's all of us. My first experience, I got a crazy EVP on my first investigation. And
Nice.
I almost feel like it's there for a reason. They're there so that you're like, okay, you're here now and you're staying.
Yeah. We've got you.
Right. Now, you briefly mentioned the classes and how all that started. So how did that evolve into this? How did it start becoming a class and a seminar thing that you have people signing up and doing with you?
Yeah, I think I am such a person who likes to learn myself. And I have gone to, you go to these conventions and you learn about cryptids and, because I do all of it. I don't just do paranormal. Creepy
Right.
is my chance to cover all of these subjects and really investigate. But from the very beginning, I wanted to be one of these speakers, but not for a sense of I'm a speaker, but because I know how it felt when I got really cool information. And I was like a little kid that had done macaroni art running home to their parents. I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to show it off, or these could be people that want to be in the paranormal world. So I started as just the podcast. I finally did it. And because it's just me, that writes everything. And I knew I have this notebook that I write everything in. And within the first few pages, you can see me writing out Paranormal 101, 102, 103. It's like this series. And I finally got the gusto to actually book a lecture area, and I wanted to do these free lectures so you could come and talk and learn something and laugh a little about the examples maybe. I'll eventually do more than paranormal, but I'm starting with that. I know I enjoyed it, and I want people to learn more than just the equipment and just standing around. Like there's more to it. There's so much more.
Very true.
Mhm.
It's so true. And it makes me wonder, like, what's your paranormal toolkit look like? What is the range of equipment that you have currently?
It's simplistic. I don't like all of these bells and whistles. I don't like things that have a human error. So, like they
Right.
have, when you talk about dowsing rods or talking boards, that there is an actual scientific the idiometer phenomenon, which is you have
Right.
voluntary and involuntary motions in your hands. You have, and don't worry, yes, I talk about this because I think people, it is literally like the Mariana Trench in between the paranormal investigators. You are either
Yes.
on that side or this side when it comes to these pseudo scientific pieces. And I think that those, you throw them out. You can have them, like I have dowsing rods because I think they do still detect differences in, electrostatic or things like that. But I don't
Right.
necessarily use them as like a talking tool. I
Right.
have an old version of an EMF, something that has a milligauss version and a microgauss. I also have a Melmeter so that I can get Tesla as well. And I like the thermometer because I love the Melmeter because it's dual. You can have
Mm.
direct readouts of temperature and EMF, and it's got the lighting on it so that you also know what's going on. Um, like I said, it's very simplistic. I don't like a lot of
Mhm.
extra bells and whistles. I have some motion sensors that go because you can put them in corners above cameras and you can walk away and just,
Right.
which they have, they've gone off before, um, which of course freak you out when you're upstairs in an old school because you're like, who's downstairs?
Right.
Doors are locked. We have permission to be here. Who's playing with the mason jars downstairs, which was a fun thing too. So that's about it. I know that sounds wild. Um, and I have a old school Radio Shack hack that I love because
Mm.
it's ancient in today's world, but it scans the radio frequencies,
Right.
which
Right.
now it's the spirit box. They actually have a name for it. And my hubby's building a paranormal or a ghost portal. I think he wants to have one of those with the different
Very cool.
pedals and things. And I think because I like that because then it completely
Cuts all
cuts
the
out
white
all that.
noise.
Yeah, so it's a little easier.
Yeah.
I really think those are cool because you're not really changing anything. And then I like the Spirit Talker app I have by Spotted Ghosts. They're from overseas, and
Okay.
I have tested that thing with so many ways, taking it off the internet, airplane only, driving around for an hour through different areas. Like I really put that bad boy through the ringer, and it does. It only reacts. It can go dead forever, and then all of a sudden you're either in a certain part of town or you're in a certain building, and it goes off. You start getting information, and that's all
Very
I have.
cool.
Yeah, so I don't have an SLS or anything like that.
Right.
So
I mean,
I'm not sure about that.
yeah. I mean, it's interesting because we on the podcast we talk a lot about equipment and how to use them, and like I'm very scientific with how I do everything, and Nick has actually gone to the extent of percentages and the likelihood that these items are actually going to go off.
Yeah.
And we talked
Is that the
about
almanac
how,
that he was talking about?
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. So the almanac is it's actually a lot to do with when you can go ghost hunting and when the best time is, based on a moon study he's done, because he does tours in Charleston. And so he's like, okay, well, I'm going to record the moon phase
Mm-hmm.
for every investigation night that I do. And he actually found that on a new moon, you're more likely to get activity than you will on a full moon.
Oh, well,
And
now I got to read about this. That's
well,
interesting.
yeah, I mean, well, we got the almanac on Amazon, and then he just put out the newest Paranormal Investigators workbook, which has his scoring system that he created for ghost hunting. So when you go out, you can score the night and actually get
Saw
a
that
number
too.
for it. Yeah,
Very curious about
it's actually why we started talking. I found him online, and I was like, this looks really interesting. Like, I gotta have this. So I got the book, and I was leafing through it, and I'm like, wow, this isn't bullshit. Like, this is real.
that. Like, there's
And
actually some like information here.
yeah, so I was like, this is really cool. And then I saw that he was talking about his moon study, and I was like, oh my God. I'm like, this works perfectly because I
Mm-hmm.
have my own theories on ultraviolet light. So
Okay.
I actually worked out the equation for UV bouncing off the moon and what you get per night based on moon phase. Um, and it correlates perfectly because the more moon you have, the more UV light you have. And
Sure.
my
More
theory is
juice.
that UV light is, yeah, well, UV light actually is harmful in my theory. So it all correlated perfectly, but it's really interesting. And I'm always challenging Nick on, every device we use is EMF based. There's very few items that are not somehow within the electromagnetic spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice to hear other people that are talking about like the actual science behind things, and
Yeah.
the fact that you don't have this broad spectrum of equipment shows that you understand that most of everything is exactly the same device.
It is. It's repackaged or with lights or oh my gosh, my hubby showed me one the yesterday, and it's from the Ghost Shop. I think that's what it is. It has like a
uh,
little white ghost on it, and he's
the
like, it's
ghost
an
stop, I think.
EMF.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it lights up and it makes this noise, and it's like that zzz, and I said, don't. I was like, do you recognize that sound? I have a weird. You asked me what I ate yesterday for lunch. I couldn't tell you. Ask me about a sound I haven't heard in 15 years. I can tell you exactly where it came from. I don't get it. I'm a freak. And so he listened to it, and I was like, that is the old school that they have rebuilt the old school one where you had to push the side and it went wee wee when you loaded it, and then it makes that same noise. That is the exact same EMF. I know it. And I recognized it. Only now it has lights that get brighter, like the millimeter, and
Mhm.
it has little sounds, but it has no actual readout. It's just lights and sound. I was like, they've
Yeah.
dumbed it down. They've sure it gives you like it's nice to walk around and you're not trying to read it or whatever.
Hmm.
At least indicates that something is there.
Right.
But I was like, it's just a repackaged piece of equipment.
Right. And it's an
That's all.
overpriced EMF meter.
Yeah, it's like $100 or more. I was like, I'm pretty sure I bought this a long time ago, and it was like less than $20. And you can buy them at like Lowe's and Home Depot, the old like the like stick ones. Like,
Right. Right. Because they were originally electrician's tools.
yeah, and I was an electrician in the Navy, and I recognize so many of this stuff.
Oh, there
Speaking
you
of,
go.
you mentioned Charleston. Is it Charleston, South Carolina?
Yes.
So I was stationed there, and I was like, oh, I wonder where he's been. I was immediately, because I used to take, when I was not on duty, I would just go take
Mhm.
ghost tours downtown. And I loved it. There's so much there. So, oh yeah, now I'm gonna have to ask
Yeah.
him when he's
He's
not
he's
off.
the only you would know if you took his tour because he's the only tour that actually uses equipment in Charleston.
Well, this would have been 20 years ago. So,
Gotcha. He didn't start up until I think he's been doing the tours like 6, 7 years now.
yeah. Oh, I wish that would have been there though, like when I was there, because that would have been way more interesting than some of the other ones I've been on.
Yeah, so he's honestly he's one of the very few, even if you look it up on like TripAdvisor, that's using equipment during the actual tours and taking you on an actual ghost investigation. Um,
Yes. And I
so there's
think he will be more successful because people want to see things, they want results. And if you're
Right.
just going around saying in 1855 a woman died here and she's no, it's just a claim. That's all it is just a claim. It's a cool story, but if you have equipment and you're on an investigation and that baby starts popping, I guarantee it, they're going to come back if they're local, or they're going to tell everybody, and you've probably just made more ghost investigators.
Yeah.
Because it's
Very true.
that's what they want. It's just more
Yeah.
interesting that way.
Now, speaking of more ghost investigators, one of the questions Nick asked me specifically to ask you was, how big are the groups that you have during these sessions when you're teaching people?
Oh, so the lectures are just getting started to take
Okay.
the mysticism away. I'm not some big rock star, nor do I want to be. I like the idea of an intimate setting because I think you pay attention more. And
Perfect.
when you're closer and you're looking at the slideshow or listening to an EVP, you can hear it better. Um,
Hmm.
so I have the Columbus one, I think is 20, and sold out, and then all the seats reserved. And then the one in Wisconsin sits 35, and it's at like 75% or something like that. Um,
Okay.
and that was just because I people just kept saying I should do it, so I did. And
That's really cool.
so people are interested. I did not. I'll be honest. I did not expect it to be like gone. People want to know about ghosts, and I love it. And this is the middle of the year. Usually that's like Halloween, right? Everybody wants to do
Hmm.
something during Halloween. So I hope
That's
it's
really, really cool.
yeah. I hope it keeps going.
Yeah. Now, what are your most common questions that you get?
Sure. So I think even throughout the years, before the library lectures, people will always ask, "What's the craziest investigation you've ever been on?" Because of course people want to hear like
Of
shock
course.
rocker stories. Leave this now. You will understand this. They don't understand that a paranormal investigation is 90% sitting on your keister and 10% cool, maybe even
Yes.
less. So that's one of the biggest questions I get. Um, People also ask, "How did you get started?" In it, and those are pretty simple questions, like we've talked about. And then I think people want to know, like historically, what is your most historical place that you've been to? I get that
Oh,
too.
okay.
And I can say that my team was one of the only teams to investigate Starvation Heights out in Washington before it was demoed. Dr. Hazard, Doctor, big fluffy quotes around that one because she's not is not a doctor. She was known for her fasting treatments, and she had her first facility that was basically an asylum for rich people, and it burned down. So she reopened another asylum or treatment center at her personal cabin so that she could watch over her patients. She would give them multiple enemas or an enema all day long, feed them tomato broth, celery broth, and she would basically starve them down to nothing. And her clients were rich. It was kind of like the fad thing to do was to go to these crazy weird things during the age of spiritualism. And once they were down to the delirious stage, she would have them sign over all of their loot, land, jewelry, you name it.
Wow.
And then once they would pass away, because she was a doctor, quote unquote, she could perform the autopsy. And what do you know? They would die of their ailment that was too bad by the time they came to her. And then, of course, to finish it off, she could say, "Well, I have the ability to cremate them here. I have a crematory." And she would get rid of the body or toss them off
Wow.
into the ravine in front of her house. And the people were very, because of course people hear about the story. It's a historical place. They would drive by and they were constantly like having to get people off of this property because the house was
Right.
just starting to fall down. But they were taking the wood from the old house and they were using it in a brand new house as vintage pieces.
Oh
And
no.
the house was active. There was the children had seen other children. They had things that were opening, closing, boot steps, which we got to hear, which was crazy. And eventually we just pulled up. I just totally cold drove up, and I was just cool with it. I said, we won't put this investigation online. Historically, we want to investigate this place, and we won't bring anybody other than us, no friends, no family, no nothing. And they let us come, and it was crazy. It was a really crazy place. And everybody always seems like they want to know about that. like stuff like that. I have a picture of what we think Dr. Hazard, like in her window where she would have slept and where she died. You can see her face in like consecutive pictures for different times of the day, and it sure enough looks just like her face, which kind of gives me the goosebumps. But
wow,
that's the kind of stuff people want to know. They want gore. That's what they want.
yeah.
Unfortunately.
So now, what does that look like? Because obviously you're more science based, and you like to go through like the realism of what ghost hunting is. So what does that process look like when you're doing this and people are like, tell me about the scary shit, who floated off the ground, like
right. I walk them through every painful scientific detail. To be honest, I was like, first I did pre-investigation walkthroughs, and we did this and this, and here's the pictures, and then the investigation looked something like this, and it was a bunch of us. I talk about going from each room, but luckily, like a place like that, we had every space we went to, we found something, even if it wasn't paranormal. We had an interesting historical piece that we got to see. Like, they had never investigated the fireplace, like the owners. Like, if it was me and I was going to hide stuff, I would put something behind the fireplace. And sure enough, because I'm a curious cat, there was no fire in there, obviously. I stuck my head in there, and I'm looking up the chimney, and I found a compartment that they had never known was there. And there was a compartment in the steps, and then in the basement there, because it was like a dirt floor basement, and like imagine those old houses where like a horse and carriage would have backed in and like unloaded things or loaded things. And in the basement there were these strange horizontal blobs of concrete that were along the walls, and they looked like the shape of a person. They looked like the shape of a person, a really globular shape of a person. And I asked them if they'd ever investigated it, and they said, no, we don't want to.
Fair.
So even if the space paranormally was boring, I like to tell people those type of things because we know things like that. Use your Sherlock Holmes, and that's weird. What is that? What's over there? I think that's important. It's part of being a science brain.
Yeah, and and that actually like really kind of speaks to almost like the John Zaffis version of ghost hunting, where he's looking through everything, looking for an item that he thinks is possibly what's causing the haunting. Like it kind of speaks to that version of like,
because that's probably what you're looking for. Yep. And because we were just speaking of that example, in a house like that where it had so much stuff happening there, and you're looking for the place, like, where are you guys keeping old jewelry that you found, and you just thought, oh, we'll just keep it. So paperwork, they had things like that, that's place memory, also known as stone tape theory. Those are things where there's something significant that is stuck here if it's residual. If you get a conscious spirit, well, someone like Linda Hazard, you're in for a ride. We didn't. It was all residual.
Yeah. Now, are the people signing up, are these ghost hunting teams? Are these just enthusiasts? Or are these just normal everyday people?
These are just normal everyday people. Yeah.
Really?
I have the only one that belonged because I recognized the name on the reserve list was there's a group coming from St. Louis, but they're not they're not a paranormal team. They're haunt actors, and they're just very interested in the paranormal. And I saw their name on there because I've been on their podcast, and I think they found it interesting. So they're driving all the way up to listen, and everyone else is just muggles.
I love it. That's one of Nick's favorite terms. He loves calling everybody muggles.
Yes. Oh, I do it constantly when I like have to go to my day job because I'm, still have a day job. I'm like, I gotta go to my muggle
Right.
job. I'll be back to aliens tonight, or whatever I'm researching.
I love it. I love it. Now, obviously, doing these talks and having people signing up, and you said you were doing free lectures at libraries and everything else. You had to have had somebody show up that was the skeptic that wanted to badger you and cause a problem somewhere.
You will be surprised that out of the people I've talked to at conventions or at this, like you always expect someone to come up and argue a theory or something like that. And that hasn't happened. I've had conversations where they want to know, they're like, and usually it's that line we talked about, that Mariana Trench, about pseudo-scientific things or mediums. That's a big hot topic. Those are things that I have gotten into conversation about. But I try to just keep it light in general and let them know, it's not because of a belief, I'm not saying it because of a religious belief, even though I have them. This is science. You can't prove to me what is in that person's brain and what they're saying. So therefore, it's not a piece of scientific information. That's my look on it. Gotcha. But I know I haven't gotten any intense people yet. I'll say that. Yeah. I'm sure it will happen now that I have put it into the universe. Thanks a lot.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm glad everything is going good so far. I mean, that's really awesome. What are some of the key points you kind of go through during your talks? Do you kind of hit on? Yeah.
I think I like to. So the 101 is the one I'm doing the lectures on so far, Paranormal 101, and so I cover the two big types of entities, and those are and the two big types of hauntings. So human versus non-human, because you really can put everybody into generally those two categories. Right. And then the type of haunting, which is conscious versus non-conscious or residual, but I use non-conscious, the scientific term. So right. That's what I start with, and I give examples, both in public that I have not investigated so that they can talk about it and go see it. And then I also talk about all of those with examples where I have been there, seen it, that type of thing. And I talk about equipment extensively because I think there's I talk about old and new, like back where they used to use bells on little strings across doors and flour on and grain on the floor. Because people are very curious about, how far back does it go? And that's going to be in 102, is the first paranormal investigation in history. I'm
very cool.
Working on that one, and but that's the side point. And then I wrap up with the golden rules, my top three golden rules of ghost hunting specifically. So I try and touch on information and safety. Those are important.
Yes, I mean that it's so important. I remember I only did this once, but I put it out there and I was like, I need new investigators for my team. And I had some people that signed up and they're like, yeah, we want to be ghost hunters. We've been with a team, blah, blah, blah. And they were two friends and they kind of came as a package deal because one drove and the other didn't. And I was like, okay, let's try it out. And first, I have rules. I have rules and regulations that I have people sign, and I do the same thing when I do my tours because I do them down here in Pasadena, California. And
I was wondering why it was light where you were. Side note.
yeah, I'm in California.
Okay.
I one of the first rules is follow your lead investigator. They are looking out for your safety. Mm-hmm. And the first thing this guy does is he walks away, gets caught on a shard of metal at a abandoned asylum location we had, and
Perfect.
rips his pants, and I'm just like, did you read anything you signed?
No. The answer is no. I'm sorry, but they didn't. They don't.
Yeah. So it's great that you touch in on the safety, and you touch in on, the best ways to do this.
Yeah.
You mentioned classifying things as human and inhuman. Have you ever had experiences with anything you would classify inhuman?
This is funny you bring that up. So I think a lot of people hear in like non-human and they jump to like demon, right? And that is not the subject, I guess, because the demon could still be considered something in the human world. When I think of non-human, like I use the example of like ghost ships or ghost trains. Like to me, that is a non-human entity. Um, and so like I use the Flying Dutchman, and I have never seen a ghost object, like that. Yeah, as cool as
Right.
that would be, and terrifying, all in the same one. That I have not experienced that, because I also feel on the other side when you're on an investigation and a lot of people think it's a non-human. I'm not saying that they don't exist, but as I'm sure you may have researched or read, or a lot of human conscious entities that don't want to be bothered or are potentially maybe scared can mimic a scarier non-human
Correct.
demon entity, and it's just a scare. It's like a pufferfish puffing up. Look, I'm big, I'm
Yeah.
scary. Walk away, and that is often it. So I have not experienced anything like that. Have I been to places where I was like, this is the quote unquote evil feeling? Yes. Yeah. I got pretty good spidey sense when it comes to things like that. But I couldn't prove or disprove it.
Yeah.
Sadly.
I completely get that. I always tell people I do residual, intelligent, and inhuman. That is my categorization. And
Mm-hmm.
inhuman to me is just anything that has not walked this earth. Like it could be an accumulation of energy. It could be
Mm-hmm.
what people refer to as an elemental. It could be, just anything at that point. And I love the fact that you actually bring it to the point of like ghost objects.
It's
Like
not
I've never
human.
honestly thought about that.
Yeah.
That's completely a new one for me, and I'm totally taking notes on that.
And just so you know, Paranormal 101 will be coming to a location near you. Maybe not in California.
Honestly, at some point I'm gonna have to get down there. It sounds super interesting. I love the fact that it's like this new, like let's teach people things. Let's make this like human.
Yeah.
Let's get away
Don't
from
make
the
it so
the scary
scary.
paranormal show. Yeah.
Yes. Or they think, and I'm going to name drop, or they think every paranormal investigator is Zach Bagans. I'm sorry, but he's
Yes.
trying to become the butt of every joke. Is he a good investigator? Sure, he could be, but look, bro, Cephas, you got to calm down. Like he has, and it's people that act like that. Maybe you've been on investigations where you get that person who is like that. I don't want to give
Yeah.
examples to like shame, but at some point I will. And that's a big one. And I have a hard time. It's usually the people who are crazy loud about them being an empath or a medium. I mean, like
Yes.
really, really loud about it. It's like the people that say, "Look, trust me." I immediately do not trust you. Immediately. And it's like it's not that mediums don't exist. I think sure, but they're probably in hiding because that's got to be terrifying. Um, or if you're a truly this empath title and that is truly what's going on in your body, I can't prove that it's happening in your body, then you probably don't want to be in public a lot. Period. And that's
Yeah.
so all these people that are really shouting to the mountains about that, I have a hard time believing that that is indeed true. I found interesting something you said. So you talked about human and non-human. So you think you
Right.
the way that you're categorized is that you say a residual is a type of haunting or a type of entity, not a type of haunting.
Yeah, so because honestly, residual haunting is nothing more than energy imprinted into a space. You know,
Right.
it's
Place
attached
memory.
to something. Yeah, it's attached to something in that space that is acting as a capacitor. Because in my theory, a spirit is an EMF radiation bubble. Like they are just a bubble of energy.
Mm-hmm.
And to exist, they need something that acts as a capacitor. So
Mm-hmm.
if it's a limestone, building or something and the energy's been imprinted, then all we're watching is an energy imprint replaying itself, and it's getting, a basic charge off the limestone as its capacitor.
I found it interesting that you consider it the type of entity and not the type of haunting. The way that you worded it.
Yeah, so
I was curious
yeah,
about
because
that.
I mean, it's not technically a person anymore at that point because it doesn't interact, it doesn't know what's going on. It's just a replay.
Yeah, yeah. I like it's just a different way of putting it out there. See, but that's what I like. I think if you can get with other investigators or even researchers that don't go in the field and they just want to research, I think you can either add information, subtract information. It's your chance to compare notes, and and
Right.
not get crazy, yelly, screamy. And I like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's important.
Yeah, and I mean, I love finding people that do stuff and get into this and really like do the research. Like they look at things and have a different viewpoint on it. And like this is, like I said, this is how I found Nick. This is how we got together and started working on stuff. Um, and it's awesome to do like the projects we've done, and the almanac is a great project that was done.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome to see it being acknowledged all over the place, and we're still looking for more writers actually for next year's. So maybe Paranormal 101 might be something that is seen in an almanac coming to you sometime
Right.
maybe next year. But yeah, it's definitely something I would love to run by him, because I think what you do and how you do it is very unique, and it's something that needs to be done more, because I'm tired of the people, like I get it all the time. I get people that go on the tours and they show up and they're like, this is terrifying, because I go to an actual location where it's dark and
Yeah.
they got to use flashlights to move around, and but it's like, okay, well, halfway through the tour, one of the first things I say is, hey, is this like the scary movies you watch? No, right? Like,
Yeah.
nobody's died
It's
yet, nobody's
different. Yeah,
floating.
but that
So
is really hard to to disconnect, excuse me, to disconnect from your memory, because you're thinking, like oh, what's the what, like 13 Ghosts, or is that what that was called, where they
right.
had like the whatever
Yes.
Zodiac. It's been a long time, so I'm just trying to, like, I just saw special effects on it recently, so it's fresh. And it's like they don't see them, and then they're like smack in front of their face, and they're all blah, 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 blah,
Mhm.
like terrifying and gross. And I'm like, it's so when you're walking around, you're that's for some strange reason, why does that pop into your head? And all of a sudden you have like a 120 heart rate, for no
Yeah.
reason. And it's because that's just our brain telling us, I've seen this somewhere. This looks just like this, only that's not real. And that's so hard to disconnect. Oh my God. I remember just walking into rooms that it's completely black, and your night vision only goes so far, and you're
Yeah.
inevitably waiting for something to jump out behind the bed,
Mhm.
like a scary movie. And
Yeah.
could it happen?
Yeah.
Sure, you could magically catch an entity and it's going to probably make you pee yourself, but that's a very small percentage.
Nah. Now, what is like, if you were to say, like, what's the highlight of your, like, kind of speech when you're going through and you're doing the 101 class? What is the highlight point of that class? Like, what's the peak of where you think people either learn the most or get the most information or have that, like, epiphany?
Yeah. I think it's when I've talked about all of the fake examples, and that first time that you play a real voice, like the Green Lake investigation we did in Seattle, where we caught a full transatlantic man, sounded residual, murdering his would-be lover daughter at the exact same time, at the exact same time of death, and that we were there. And now they're hearing it. That's because it's one thing when you're like, oh yeah, that movie. But when you actually hear something that makes your hair stand up, that is, somebody caught it. That's in the room. Somebody took a recorder. And I said, here,
Wow.
listen to it. That's when usually people are like, oh, wibbly wibblies. I don't like this anymore. But they're intrigued. They're also very intrigued. And that's usually, again, real life, like we talked about. You have pieces of investigative, or you have investigative tools versus walk around and just tell stories. Now they can do something. Like making a kid do something for the first time. Their little brains explode. They love it. So I think that's what scoops them, is the real life examples.
Yeah. Now, do you have like a Paranormal 101 like pamphlet or book that you hand out, or something that you're currently working on?
I have a syllabus. Yeah, I have a syllabus that I hand out. So it's basically like a college class. You know, you go there. It has a syllabus on the back. It has examples of. I can show it to you here. That's all packed up though, because I can leave. And so that you feel like you're attending something. You're not just coming to watch somebody blabber at you. I have that. I have a full slideshow that I've made that has all the examples and quotes and things like that. All the different types of equipment. You can look at it. So again, for a free lecture, I wanted people to really feel like this was worth your time.
Wow. That's amazing. And you said you're packed up, you're ready to go. So you're off to one of the classes now, or I'm assuming soon.
Tomorrow I get on a plane.
Oh, wow.
So I'm headed home so I am a Wisconsinite. I said that's what I coined myself, as the weirdo Wisconsinite. I am flying home to Wisconsin. Appleton is the first stop on the tour, and that's on Friday. So me and all of my projector and everything are flying on a jet plane and headed that way.
That's so cool. Now, where can people find you to sign up for these classes?
Yeah, so everything's at creepyconfidential.com. That is my home base. That has all the episodes too. So if you want to learn about Robert the Doll, cool, you can go there. Like everything that I've covered. If you want to watch all the live streams, that's there. And then in the very corner, as soon as you load the page, it says live library lectures, and you can go right there and find out if there's one near you. There's just Columbus and Appleton at the current moment. Because April's busy.
I get that. I completely get that. Wow, it's amazing. Like I said, what you're doing with that, and I appreciate you. As someone in the paranormal field that really takes it seriously, to have other people out there that are really trying to push this the right direction. So I applaud you for everything you're doing.
I think that's also like, because we have the Zach Bagans of the world that lead a poor example, unfortunately. I think he started with a good heart, and then he went Hollywood, and that's not how it goes. It's like any science experiment or any theory that you have to prove. There is countless hours of blood, sweat, tears, and nothing before you finally get a eureka. So
yeah,
it's worth it.
Well, I will definitely be looking further into the Paranormal 101. I find it very interesting. I'm gonna have to find a way to get a hold of one of your syllabus, because I totally want to know like all of the things that are in there that we didn't go over and cover. So
well, and it'll be on video. I'm gonna record. Eventually they will be like free things that you can click to watch a free lecture. So I'm not gatekeeping it. It'll just be really if cool. I'm in town, you can get the firsthand information. But eventually, they will be a virtual version as well.
Very cool, very cool. I applaud what you're doing. It's a really cool concept. That's why I wanted to do this interview, because I'm like, nobody goes out and teaches the paranormal. Like, yes, like
Right.
we get on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, and we do little
Agreed.
videos, and we show people how to use an EMF meter, and but nobody's
Mhm.
put together like a serious like class that people can go and attend, except for those people that are like, oh, well, we're a paranormal school, and you can come get a ghost hunter certificate, and
And it's crazy expensive. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I saw one the other day. It was like $2,000 to
yeah,
learn this crazy, and you get a piece of paper that's from this random call. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. No place that you go is going to say, "Wow, you have a certificate." I'm sorry, that's real.
right,
That's just me being real about it. It's not going to matter.
agreed,
It's not a degree from Harvard, and
agreed.
people are just going to have to get over it.
Yeah, I mean, I could make up a degree right now.
Right? I'm grabbing my because I can tell you, because since we're talking about it, see, now you got the wheels turning here. So now I have to grab one of my just so I can tell you what's coming on my handy dandy notebook. I know whoever's listening to this probably can't see it. This goes everywhere with me. All of the this is like the playbook, right? Like the secret playbook of everything that you're working on. Because I know I have my ideas all planned out for the 102, 103. And then of course,
Mhm.
as you go higher, like any college level class, 101 is like to get your feet kind of wet. And then
Right.
102 is like how much detail can you handle? And number 3 is like you need a snack and you're going to be there for a while. Yeah, so I found it. So Ghost Hunting 102 or Paranormal 102, when I originally called it, it's Ghost Hunting 102. I'm going to cover the first paranormal case historically, and that was at I think a big like chalet overseas. Um,
Mhm.
the founding fathers of the paranormal, and because I think if you don't talk about Hans Holzer, then what are you doing?
Right.
Um, and then I'm going to actually, I'm doing a podcast on them, but I want to talk about the queens of the seance from the spiritualistic or spiritualism era. Not because I necessarily agree with the seances, but because people were trying really hard to prove them wrong, and you learn
Mhm.
what they're trying to prove wrong. So those pictures of like you see with cheesecloth that are very, very false.
Right.
These are like I'm reading a book right now on Helen Duncan, and I did one on Ava C. And I think people need to know about the history. How did we get here? Why do we
Right.
talk about seances? Why do we, things of that nature? So I really wanted to dive into more history for the second one. Not necessarily technical information, um, but that'll be my next one.
That's really cool. Honestly, I'd love to see this turned into some kind of classes, like actual like sit down lecture classes, because it's fascinating.
If I
It
had my
really
way.
is.
Oh, if I
Yeah.
had my way.
Yeah, because like I've done episodes on what I say is like the father of the paranormal is like you have Dr. Faraday, who made the Faraday cage, but he also had a hand in doing so many other things, and none
As
of
many
this.
scientists did back
Yeah,
then.
and I
They
mean,
kind of had their hands in a bunch of pots.
yeah, and he at no point wanted this stuff to go to the paranormal. Like or invented a device to prove that table tipping was false, and
Mhm.
had people use it just so he could prove the point. So I mean, there's so many scientists that don't even realize what they've done is now part of a paranormal community.
Yeah,
Um,
and but I think that's important. So that time frame of the table tipping, the seances, those two, even just those two things, they had people like Harry Houdini and was it Price,
mhm.
something Price? I can't remember his name.
Harry Price.
Thank you. My brain. I was like Harry Houdini. There's no way it's a Harry as well. It's lit. But Harry was like they both were out to prove that these people were not not truthful. And I
Yeah.
think that table tipping comes in time, or the sisters, where they do the knuckles that would crack, but really it was really
Mhm.
faking people out. The Fox sisters, and they're all from the same era, and people just
Yep.
think ghost hunting is all about ghost adventures and ghost hunters. And I was like, oh whoa, it's way cooler
Yeah.
because there's
When
all
you
the
really get
charlatans
down
we
into
had to
it.
prove. Mm-hmm. Yep. That's why I think you got to dive into the what's and the what-nots of it.
Yeah.
You have to have both sides of the science equation.
Yeah. Oh, again, Noelle, this has been
Did I
a
tell you?
fascinating conversation, and I love it. I love it. I would love to be able to come down and take your 101, 102, 103. Like, I would love to go farther into this because I do a crap ton of research for my own podcast, and then helping, doing part of Nick's podcast with the stories in the cemetery. So like we do so much research between the two of us, it's insane. And then we have our own scientific stuff that we're doing and working on. And
Yep.
but I love all the stuff you go into. Now, is Creepy Confidential the name pretty much for everything? That's where everybody's gonna find
Everything.
you on everything.
Everything. Yep.
Perfect.
Everything's Creepy Confidential. I am Creepy Confidential. They are all Creepy Confidential. Everywhere. If you find anything, you'll see the pyramid with the Bigfoot walking up it and the spaceship up above. That is my icon.
Awesome.
Which my hubby lovingly designed for me. Off of a
Very
sketch
cool.
that was on a 3x3 post-it note. So not related to the paranormal, but you talk about being in the field and you have to both help each other. So I think it's super cool that you have somebody else, albeit on the other side of the United States, that you can research and be part of a team together, even if you're not like hanging out literally with the person every time.
Yeah. So it really speaks to the whole like para unity, everybody kind of working towards the same things. And as much as I would want, much as I would like to say that the para unity thing is so much more widespread, I feel like there is different versions. And there's kind of a smaller cluster that's more of like the parapsychologist, para researcher, that's going the step farther.
And I think that's become my wheelhouse in my age of being older and not wanting to be up past 9 o'clock like I used to. I am the school marm who wants to teach everybody and then let them go off and have fun, because I think people that are doing field work, the last one we did was Post Town Elementary here in Ohio, and I was there till 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and I told What Goes Bump in the Night. I was there with them, and I was like, "You have an old lady out here investigating until 4 o'clock in the morning. How dare you?" And they're like, "But it was fun, wasn't it?" I'm like, "Oh, that place was crazy active." Darn it.
Well, I appreciate your teaching and helping create the next generation of ghost hunters in the right direction. So anybody that would like to, So please, everyone, look up Creepy Confidential. Look up the classes. So hopefully she'll have more, coming up in the future. I really think this is a golden opportunity for people to start learning the right ways to do this. So, and not baggins it.
Yeah. Oh, has he become a verb to baggins something? That's when you know.
I mean, I kind of use it as that.
Yeah. It's a description, an adjective, and a verb. That is so baggins, and then I am baggins in it.
Oh my god. I'm going to coin this and get sued.
I don't have anything to take, boo-boo. Come get me. I have to, before I know, I'm not sure what time frame you mentioned Nick being in Charleston, South Carolina. And hopefully if any listeners listen to this, they can also research it and tell me if this ghost still exists in Charleston. When I was there was a hotel that they talked about a paranormal entity that was there. He was a military member from like back in the Civil War era, because that's a big, divide down there. And the hotel that he was at, the hotel burned down and they rebuilt the hotel. So when you see him coming in his uniform, it's like knees up. He's walking halfway through the floor.
You know what? I'm pretty sure
Nick
knows exactly. I can't remember the names. Nick will know. So, and I mean, he's the one that's going to be doing the editing on this, so he's going to hear this.
Well, then he needs to know that Noelle of Creepy Confidential was stationed in Charleston, South Carolina, and is still thinking about this stupid ghost. And I can't remember what his name is. So, please, if I can get a word across the line, I need it.
Gotcha. I'll have him reach out to you about it. I bet he has the answer for that. So, and then we will also, I'll have him reach out, because I think if we had you write an article for next year's almanac, I think it'd be really interesting. Because we are looking for more writers, and I think a Paranormal 101 article would be really cool.
Hey, I have everything written, so that would be easy. I am like a writer, and then I practice it, and then I speak it. I have to write everything out, so I could easily do that, and then you'd get all the goodies.
Oh, sounds awesome. Well, thank you again. This is going to kind of wrap up the episode, so everybody keep looking for more episodes, and thanks for listening in on this special bonus episode. So thank you, Noelle.
Bye, guys. Stay creepy, my friends.
That was frickin' awesome. Thanks for listening to this totally randomly placed bonus episode. If you'd like to learn more about our guest, check the show notes wherever you listen to the Stories in the Cemetery podcast and connect with them. Are you doing something to the paranormal field as badass as our guest? Want to come chat and brag about your innovations? Reach out to us at storiesinthecemetery@gmail.com with subject line podcast guest, and we'll reach out if you can pique our interest. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss these random bonus episodes.